This is a very pleasant evening. Today is June 30th, the year 2026, and welcome you all to the premium monthly series, lecture series program, which is organized by the Partha Ghosh School of Leadership, Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. This premium talk is not a new one, it's happening for quite a few years. About little less than a year back, uh, it was an academy of leadership. Since last year, it has become a school of leadership. And the objective, the imperative, and the responsibility of the school of leadership has become larger and vaster. Now we are organizing national level nurturing future leadership program under the Ministry of Leadership. To be very brief, so after I joined as a chair, there are more than 3 to 4 such programs where faculty come from all over the nation. It's a very interesting experience. We are also organizing programs which are on AI governance and leadership, of which Upgrad is one of our marketing partners. Just a few days away, in the first week of July, we are organizing a pilot with Tufts University, Tufts Gordon Institute, Massachusetts, Medford, in association with Confederation of Indian Industries. And very soon we are going to have a few more cohorts of NFLP program at the national level. And in addition to that, we also have many other ventures, like I'll just mention two. One is the National Women Leadership Program, which will be coming from the government of West Bengal, the government of India at the national level. So it's a huge responsibility. It's very easy to say all these things because each is just not execution, but doing it with quality, precision, and honesty. I think the very important word that I found out in today's esteemed speakers and a backdrop is the word calm, calm investing. So you have to be very honest, you have to be very intricate, and you have to be very calm before you start doing things. Nothing should agitate. You should be able to handle your own situation. So I'm very grateful to Professor Ravi Bhaskaran, who is actually one of my premium mentors when I was a student, and even when I joined as a faculty about 25, 26 years back. Professor Bhaskaran had been very kind to me in many sense, which is very personal. So I think I'm very grateful, and we are very grateful to Professor Bhaskaran, who is a life fellow of IIT Kharagpur. And I think Sir will be joining any moment. Maybe he's here already. To introduce to us one person from the fraternity of IIT Kharagpur, one person who has made a difference and is making a difference in the lives of many engineers, designers, innovators, and people of entrepreneurship in India and around the world. Today, of late, he's the founder of an organization. I won't say it's a company, a founder of a movement, which is called ProsperAgain. And he leads product and technology leadership, and he promotes calm philosophy of investing, which I find very, very interesting. So his topic today is leading people, leading the human mind, leading entrepreneurs and innovators in the age of artificial intelligence, which we normally call AI. So one of the most important thing that we look forward to this premium lecture is trust, innovation, and the future of human leadership. So I'm talking about alumnus IIT Kharagpur, Mr. Padmanabhan Karatha. Very welcome, most welcome, Mr. Karatha, to this gathering here. So your talk is a matter of pride to us because we are not only hearing an expert, but we are hearing someone who is one amongst us. He's a part of our fraternity. As I just came to know, I mean, Mr. Padmanabhan Karatha are very close to some of my best friends like Professor Amit Patra, Professor Siddhartha Mukhopadhyay, besides others. So that really puts him and puts us at a very comfortable and wonderful platform. Uh, I asked Professor Bhaskaran to say a few words about him, but sir, he's a man of huge age and experience. So he said, "Joy, you do it." Yeah. So I kept on reading some of the beautiful articles by Padmanabhan ji on the web, and what I found out in his writings is just not information and detailings and talking about big things, but his respect for his seniors. He is recollecting a teacher whom he says Murali sir, from his days of undergraduation, what is known today as the National Institute of Technology, Calicut. It was a regional engineering college in the olden days. So this was in 1983. So he did his bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and in those writings, I can find out his extreme brilliance, to bring in one fold rigorous coursework, the mechanical engineering labs, and his involvement in the extracurricular activities, which includes national service scrims, the Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad Balavedi, and many other programs of the college and the institute, which makes a complete human being. I think this is something that we need to learn from his life. In the later years, he became a part of IIT Kharagpur, and he did his master from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and in power systems engineering. And this is the time he became close to many of the names that I just mentioned. So, Mr. Padmanabhan Karatha is right now in Troy, Michigan, which is the Midwest in the United States. I am familiar with this region because I spend a lot of time there, including Chicago, Iowa, and Michigan itself. My last visit to the United States in 2023 was in Michigan, including Boston. So that makes things, very cozy, very homely, and something. But what I found, I'll end with this, and I think it will come out from the expected brilliant talk from Padmanabhan ji. What I found in his mission, in his vision, and his imperative is that the key responsibilities that he's driving in the ways to come, to lead end-to-end product strategy, technology architecture, which is a very important word, and operational execution, combining product management, engineering leadership, and business ownership. I'm not getting into details because we expect it will come out in his talk. So product leadership, technology architecture and engineering execution, data and investment model development, cross-functional ownership, uh, infrastructure and reliability. That's something which is very close to my heart because I am essentially a systems designer, planner, and and then go to market and launch execution, which completes the whole life cycle of a product mission or a function. That makes what Mr. Padmanabhan is doing right now very complete, very all embracing, and it completes the entire life cycle process of a design, innovation, investment function. So I think with these words, Partha Ghosh School of Leadership, IIT Kharagpur, invites you, sir, in this gathering that we have every month once. And all these lectures are recorded and it becomes a part of the YouTube, which is telecasted through the IIT portal officially and formally. And your contribution becomes a part of the fraternity of knowledge sharing and knowledge leadership and knowledge partnership, which will disseminate in the days and the months and the years to come. So, with this, it's my august pleasure to hand over the portal of today's premium lecture to you, sir. So, Mr. Padmanabhan Karatha, alumnus IIT Kharagpur. I think that's the best acquaintance I can share. The rest are, I think, all secondary. He's one amongst us. Over to you, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
You can.
Professor Joyce and Professor Bhaskaran, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you not simply for inviting me here, but for the generosity, openness, and the spirit of community that made that institution more meaningful to me. To be asked back, even across a screen, we are here, even after 37 years, and to be given the privilege of addressing the students, researchers, faculty, and fellow alumni of IIT Kharagpur. That is not something I take lightly. This institution shaped me in ways I am still discovering. To everyone who joined today, thank you for your time. I hope that I share whatever I am sharing is useful, and I look forward to all your questions after the presentation. So let me make some adjustment here based on what Professor Joyson asked. I am going to come out of the video, so it
Yeah,
will be much
that will be
more.
good. And even I'm going to put off my video if required, but I'm not affected because the bandwidth will develop. So it will go like this, about 40 to 45 minutes of talk, followed by a good session of questions and answers. Yeah.
Okay, so before I start, I have some personal things to share with all of you. In 1989, long before I entered everyday conversation, I was at IIT Kharagpur working on my MTech thesis, building Express, an expert system for power system restoration. It was a rule-based AI meant to capture the judgment of seasoned power system engineers and convert it into computer logic. The concept was simple. The execution was anything but simple. My job was to turn decades of human intuition into a structured rules a machine could apply consistently. So as you can see, I was in the visionary at that time. I was a postgraduate student trying to finish this MTech thesis. But during that time, two ideas that captured my attention: expert system, which became my thesis, and neural networks, which were mostly theoretical then, because the computing power that is required didn't exist. Still, I sensed they had a real potential at that time. As a side hobby, I wrote small programs that took user inputs and produced customized responses. Very primitive, but built on the same logic. That essentially is what ChatGPT is doing today, only at a scale I could never have imagined. What once felt theoretical is now real and far beyond anything I expected to witness. But I want to be very clear. Whatever curiosity I had was I had was sparked here at IIT Kharagpur by professors who believed students should explore not just current problems, but future possibilities. The culture of rigor and imagination, the idea that engineers must understand both how things work and why they matter, shaped everything that followed. I owe this institution more than I can express. 37 years separate that lab in IIT Kharagpur from this moment. I have watched AI evolve from brittle rule-based system to technologies that can reason, create, and surprise even their designers. And here is what I have learned. Engineering challenges eventually yield to time, compute, and ingenuity. Leadership challenges does not. They require deliberate, courageous human effort. And that is what I want to talk to you today. Before I get to these three themes of today's lecture, let me establish the scale of what we are actually dealing with. Because I think it is still underappreciated, even among people who work with AI every day. The economic projections alone are extraordinary. According to McKinsey Global Institute's June 2023 research, generative AI could add between 2.6 and $4.4 trillion to global economy annually. And that estimate covers only the direct impact of generative AI, not the broader category of all AI applications. Goldman Sachs, in its own analysis from the same period, projected that AI could raise global GDP by 7% over 10 years and lift annual productivity growth by 1.5 percentage points. To put them in perspective, a sustained 1.5 percentage of point lift in productivity growth would be one of the most significant economic shifts in post-World War era. The adoption story is equally striking. ChatGPT took just 2 months to reach 100 million users, the fastest consumer application adoption in recorded history. To give that context, Instagram took 2.5 years to reach the same number. TikTok, which felt like overnight phenomenon, took 9 months. What we saw with ChatGPT was not just a rapid uptake. It was a signal about the degree to which people were ready for this technology, waiting for it, searching for it without knowing it existed. In January 2025, a consortium of 3 private companies, OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle, announced the Stargate project, a $500 billion commitment to build AI infrastructure across the United States. This is not a small budget. This is a private sector making a generational bet, announced at the White House with the full backing of the US administration. The scale of private capital mobilizing around this technology has no modern precedent. On the labor side, the International Monetary Fund reported in January 2024 that 40% of global jobs are exposed to AI disruption, rising to 60% in advanced economies. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, published in January 2025, projects 170 million new roles created by 2030 against 92 million displaced. A net positive in aggregate, but one that hides the pain of individual displacement in specific sectors, regions, and communities. Every major technological revolution in history, either steam engine, electricity, the internet, automated physical or transactional tasks. They made human hands and processes faster. Artificial intelligence is different in kind, not just in degree. It operates at the level of cognition itself. It does not automate a task. It begins to replicate the capacity that underlies every task. The steam engine did not threaten to replace the engineer who designed it. AI, at its frontier, is beginning to participate in the act of design itself. That is why this moment is unlike anything we have seen before. And that is precisely why the question it raises for leadership are so urgent and so different from those raised by any previous technology. Which brings me to what I want to cover today. I want to explore the dimensions of this challenge. 3 lenses through which I believe every leader in the age of AI must learn to see: trust, innovation, and human leadership. These are not three separate topics. I want to be clear about that from the onset itself. They are three inseparable dimensions of a single challenge. How do we ensure that the most powerful technology in human history serves human flourishing rather than undermining it? Each of these three themes is incomplete without the other two. Why? You cannot have innovation without trust, because innovation without accountability corrodes the institution it disrupts. You cannot have trust without human leadership, because human leadership is what decides which values get embedded and enforced. And human leadership without innovation is merely management. All three together, that is the challenge. Let us begin with the one that I believe is the most underestimated and the most important, and that is trust. Trust isn't a soft skill or an afterthought. It is the operating system that makes leadership work. Without trust, even the best technology stalls. With the trust, limited resources can achieve outsized impact. Every leader who has guided a team through uncertainty or asked people to embrace change knows this, whether they name it or not. The rise of AI makes trust even more central. Unlike earlier technologies, AI systems are not fully legible. Their decisions emerge from vast neural networks that even their creators cannot completely interpret. When a system can generate fluent explanations, but we cannot verify whether those explanation reflects its true reasoning, trust becomes fragile. And when people cannot audit the logic behind decisions that affect their lives, trust erodes not only in the technology, but in the institution and the leaders that deployed it. This is why trust must be treated as a foundational thing. In the AI era, legitimacy doesn't come automatically from innovation. It comes from leadership that is intentional, transparent, and accountable. Leadership that understands trust as a core infrastructure on which everything else depends. AI does not have to be illegitimate, but making it legitimate requires deliberate, courageous leadership. So, what specifically breaks trust in AI? Let me take you through four mechanisms, because understanding what corrodes trust is the first step to building it. The first is opacity, the black box problem. When an AI system produces a recommendation or a decision and cannot explain in terms of affected person can understand how it arrived there, we have a fundamental accountability failure. This is not merely an ethical inconvenience. Research has shown that patients shown an AI diagnosis with no accompanying explanation were less likely to follow the recommended treatment, even when the AI was correct. Explainability is not just a legal or ethical necessity, it is a clinical and practical one. A system whose recommendations cannot be explained is a system whose recommendations cannot be trusted, regardless of its accuracy. The second is bias. AI systems are trained on historical data, and historical data encodes historical bias. This is not a minor technical caveat, it is a structural problem with profound consequences. Criminal sentencing risk scoring tools used in several United States jurisdictions were found to consistently rate certain defendants as higher risk than others with identical criminal histories. The algorithm did not introduce a new bias, it automated and scaled an existing one, giving, in the, giving it the authority of apparent objectivity. Algorithmic bias is historical injustice wearing a technical mask. The third is accountability gaps. When an AI system causes harm, misdiagnoses a patient, denies a deserving loan, flags an innocent person as a security risk, who is responsible? The developer who built the model, the organization that deployed it, the regulator who approved it. In most jurisdictions today, the answer is genuinely unclear. And ambiguity about accountability corrodes trust because trust requires the ability to seek redress. If there is no clear line of accountability, there is no meaningful recourse. And without recourse, the social contract that justifies deploying these systems in the first place begins to dissolve. The fourth is synthetic reality. Deep fakes and synthetic media have already been used in election interference, in financial fraud targeting individuals and corporations, and in personal harassment campaigns that have left real people's lives in ruins. This is not a hypothetical risk, it is a documented pattern. When we cannot trust what we see and hear, we lose the shared factual foundation that democratic society that depends on. And AI has already begun to erode that foundation in ways that will accelerate before they are effectively governed. Knowing what breaks trust is only the beginning. The more important question is what builds it. The first pillar is transparency. Can we explain in plain language that the affected person can understand how and why an AI system made a specific decision? Not in general terms, in this case, for this person at this moment. If the answer is we cannot explain it, the system should not be deployed where it affects rights or livelihoods. Full stop. Transparency is not a constraint on building powerful AI. It is the condition under which powerful AI earns the right to be trusted. The second pillar is accountability. Someone must be responsible before the harm occurs and not after. The European Union AI Act, which came into full force in August 2024 and represents the world's first comprehensive AI regulation, makes accountability mandatory for high-risk AI applications in the areas including employment, education, law enforcement, and critical infrastructure. 440 million people are now legally protected by it. Whether we believe the specific regulatory choices are optimal or not, the principle is correct. Accountability must be established by design, not assigned by litigation after damage is done. The third is fairness. This means actively correcting for historical bias, not just measuring overall accuracy, but disaggregating performance data by demographic group and asking the harder question. Does this system work equally well for the people most vulnerable to its errors? A hiring AI that is 92% accurate overall, but 58% accurate for candidates from underrepresented groups is not a fair system. It is a discriminatory system with impressive headline statistics. The fourth is safety, override mechanism, human intervention capability, the ability to shut a system down. For the highest risk applications, like autonomous systems, medical diagnostics devices, critical infrastructure management, this must be built into the architecture before deployment, not retrofitted after an incident. Safety in this context is not the absence of risk, it is the presence of human control even when the system is performing well. These four pillars, transparency, accountability, fairness, and safety, are not constraints on innovation. They are the condition under which innovation earns the right to scale. Trust is the foundation, but what are we building on that foundation? That brings to the second theme, which is innovation. I want to be clear. Now, by so far hearing all this, it has sort of a negative theme or an alarm on most of the people who are hearing this. The same technology that raises difficult governance question is also enabling something extraordinary, something worth celebrating with equal seriousness. We are watching AI become one of the most powerful scientific instruments humanity has ever created. Take the protein folding issue. In 2021, DeepMind's AlphaFold solved a problem that had challenged biologists for half a century, predicting a protein's 3D structure from its amino acid sequence. Proteins are the molecular machines behind every biological process, and their shape determines their function. For decades, progress was slow enough that an annual competition existed just to measure small advances. AlphaFold didn't advance the field, it transformed it. Its database of roughly 200 million predicted structures was released freely to researchers worldwide, accelerating discovery across biology and medicine. In 2024, the work earned the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Now let us look at another example, cancer detection. In a Swedish trial of more than 100,000 women, AI-supported mammography screening detected 29% more cancers than standard screening alone. And women who received AI-supported screening were 12% less likely to be diagnosed with cancer in the 2 years that followed. These are not marginal improvements. They represent real lives caught earlier, treated more effectively. This is not AI replacing radiologists. It is AI making radiologists significantly more powerful, helping them see what they might otherwise have missed and act before a cancer becomes life-threatening. The same class of capability is now being applied to diabetic retinopathy, skin cancer, lung cancer, and sepsis prediction, transforming the detectability of conditions that have historically been diagnosed too late. Now, the third one, climate and extreme weather conditions. This is very compute-intensive task. Google DeepMind's GraphCast model, described in Science in November 2023, outperformed the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecast, which has for decades been the gold standard in global meteorology, in 90% of weather prediction tasks. It generates 10-day global weather forecast in under a minute, compared to hours of computation on supercomputer clusters for traditional numerical weather prediction models. In a world where extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and more deadly, that predictive capacity is not an academic achievement. It saves lives. It allows evacuations to happen earlier. It allows agricultural decisions to be made with greater precision. It gives communities facing climate risk more time to prepare. What excites me most about this moment is, especially for the students and researchers here, is how dramatically the barriers to building with AI have fallen. In 1989, creating an expert system required costly hardware, proprietary tools, and expertise held by only few. Today, anyone with a laptop, internet access, and a clear idea can tap into foundation models through open APIs, adapt to them with the domain data, and build something that could reach millions. This democratization of capability is real and accelerating. It means that anyone with imagination and discipline can create something meaningful. And that opportunity and that responsibility now rest with the people exactly like those who are attending this meeting. Let me be clear about what human leadership means in the age of AI, since we talked about all these three important aspects. I'm not talking about prompt skills or model selection, those are tools. I am talking about four qualities AI cannot automate, cannot replace, and that become more essential as AI grows more capable. The first is epistemic humility, knowing what you don't know. AI can be fluent, confident, and completely wrong. It can perform perfectly 9 times and fail disastrously in the 10th time. The real skill is knowing when to trust the output and when to question it. That judgment cannot be delegated to a model. The most dangerous leader is not the one who knows too little about AI, but the one who convinced they know enough. The second is critical curiosity, active interrogation, not passive skepticism. When AI recommend an action, the leaders must ask, why? What data shaped this? What assumptions sit underneath? Who is at risk if this fails? Curiosity protects against automation bias, the tendency to defer to algorithms, even when human judgment should override them. Leaders who build this habit make better decisions in the era of AI. The third is ethical clarity, drawing boundaries before the crisis, not during it. It's easy to deploy an AI system when the business case looks strong and the risk feel abstract. It is far harder to unwind it once it is embedded and the harms are diffuse. Ethics must be decided at the design stage. When should we build this is still an open question. Leaders with clarity don't wait for a scandal to define their principles. The fourth is coalition building. No single leader or nation can govern AI alone. The European Union AI Act exists because institutions spend years building consensus across countries, industries, and competing interests. AI's challenges, accountability, liability, dual use risk, global access, require cooperation across borders. Leaders who can hold complex negotiation together and find common ground are among the most valuable people in the world right now. What AI cannot replace? Alongside what AI demands of leaders, there are four human capacities no system can replicate. And in a world where AI handles more of the routine, these becomes even more valuable. The rarest resource in an AI abundant world is not intelligence, it is humanity. The first is empathy, the ability to truly understand another person's experience. AI can imitate empathy, but it cannot feel. A doctor supporting a patient through a hard diagnosis, a leader studying a team in a painful moment, a teacher noticing a student's quiet struggle. These acts define the professional people trust, the professionals people trust. They cannot be automated. The second is moral judgment, choosing the least harmful path when no option is perfect. AI optimizes for an objective. It does not weigh competing values or accept responsibility for consequences. As AI accelerates decision making, human judgment at critical moments becomes even more decisive. The third is meaning making, asking why something matters, who it serves, and what it implies. AI can describe reality with precision, but it cannot interpret its significance. Leaders who help people understand the purpose behind their work provide something no model can replace. The fourth one is inspiration, moving people to act from conviction and shared purpose. Not algorithmic nudging, but a genuine belief in something what we are doing. Leadership has always depended on this human connection, and no amount of compute or parameters will ever reproduce it. Let me make this practical. If you are here today as a student starting your journey, and a researcher building something important, or a faculty member shaping future engineers, what does this actually mean for you? Think of it as a 5 stage of progression, moving from awareness to genuine leadership in the age of AI. The first stage is understanding, and not at a superficial level. How do large language models work? What is a training data set? What technically causes a hallucination? These are in the niche questions. They are the basic foundation for anyone who will make decisions about AI in an organization. In the AI era, this level of understanding isn't optional. It is the minimum requirement for responsible leadership. The second step is to question, to build the habit of challenging AI outputs thoughtfully and consistently, not rejecting them, but interrogating. Ask what the model was trained on, who it might fail for, what the error rate is, and who pays the price when it is wrong. Question is the confidence of the output, not just the content. The third stage is to design, to embed human values into AI systems from the start itself. Fairness, transparency, and safety must be treated as core design constraints, not features added after launch. When you build AI, and many of you will, these principles should shape the architecture itself. The fourth is to govern, to create oversight before problems scale. Every technology wave shows that retrofitting governance is costly and ineffective. Social media wasn't governed until harms were widespread. We are still dealing with the consequences. AI doesn't have to repeat that pattern, but only if leaders act now while systems are still shapeable. The fifth and most important stage is to inspire, to lead people toward an AI future worth having, not just the most efficient or profitable future, but one that serves communities, nations, and the people who will live in it. Leadership at its highest level has always been about helping others see a better possibility and committing to make it real. This era is no different in that sense. In Before I close, three things I want to carry with you. One is trust is the operating system of leadership in the age of AI. Build AI that can explain itself, that assigns accountability before harm occurs, and that can be stopped when it needs to be stopped. When a system you are responsible for cannot genuinely account for its decision, when it can narrate but not truly audit its own reasoning, that is your problem to solve, not the algorithms, yours. Second, innovation without human judgment is not progress. It is acceleration without direction. The breakthroughs AI is enabling are extraordinary in science, in medicine, in our understanding of the natural world. Your role as leaders is not to restrain that acceleration, it is to ensure that it serves human flourishing rather than merely human efficiency. Efficiency without flourishing is optimization. Leadership is something else entirely. Three, what makes you irreplaceable is not what you know. It is how you think, how you judge, how you connect, and how you lead. AI will handle more and more of knowing, the thinking, the judging, the connecting, the leading. Those are yours. They have always been yours. Protect them deliberately, develop them intentionally, invest in them with the same rigor you brought to your technical education. They are the most important assets you have. And in a world increasingly abundant with artificial intelligence, they are becoming more valuable and not less. So, just to close, I wanted to provide this. Will we lead the age of AI or be led by it? The technology, my answer is, and I give it not with certainty, but with genuine conviction, is this. It depends entirely on what people like we decide to do with what we know. The technology will not wait. It will not slow down for governance to catch up or pause while we debate its ethics. What determines whether the age of AI is an age of human flourishing or human displacement is not the algorithm. It is not the compute cluster. It is not the foundation model or the parameter count or the next architectural breakthrough. It is the quality of the leadership that surrounds it, the deliberateness of the choices made by the people responsible for it, the courage of those willing to say, this is not right, and I will not do it. That is the answer, and it always will be. With that, I want to conclude here. We have completed within 40 minutes. I want Professor Joyson to take over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was such a pleasure. It was so simple and straightforward. So maybe uh, we can have you visually. Now you can open up your video, and
Sure.
we can have a small, why a small, maybe a very good question and answer session. I think Your presentation has been the reflection of your lifelong association with technology, progress, and humanity. That's number one. And your presentation also has, through the experience, come down to the denominators of clarity and simplicity in presentation. Things are absolutely simple. They're like the fundamental building block. I think this can even happen at a class 6 level in a primary school. This can happen again at the first year level at undergraduate studies, and it can be shown once more at the master's level. I think this is a presentation, and maybe you add one or two points here and there. This is a presentation which can recur three times. I'll just start with three very quick questions, and not exactly questions. I think they're extractions from what you talked, because I was watching your words very carefully, and of course with some respect that I have. So I think one point of many points that you have said is WEF, the World Economic Forum. Something which worries. I think this worry has happened to human civilization long back at the times of industrial revolution taking over, about 350 years back, then 300, 250 years back. But the feature of that age, about 250, 300 years back, was not that as fast as we have today. I think one of the reasons for that is a huge role that electrical sciences play today, communication technology. I mean, everything is, and it's we are also entering a quantum age where probably we don't know, maybe in another 10, 15, 20, 50 years, we'll have instantaneous information transfer across points which are very far, far away. Yeah, yeah. So, and it can also take over a bit of biological interface. We don't know because bionics and AI is coming up in a very big way, which not many people know. I mean, at a very generic level. I have even talked with people from AI, they are not aware because much of AI's progress is from medical electronics, from bioinformatics, and from genetic algorithm, and a few more things. I don't know everything, and because I have friends from that area. I talk to them, and I students as well. So what's happening right now? The speed of change is so fast, uh, so is that there is an inflection point, and job losses. See, jobs come and go. That's not the problem, but the way it's happening. The way it's happening. I mean, what happened about 250 years back, 200 years back, at the turn of industrial revolution, and it entered the developing world or underdeveloped world, like countries in Asia, India. About 120 years back, 90 years back, 80 years back. Machines came in and everything. So there was a huge shock, and people were worried and everything. But right now, that level of worry is huge. And this I've heard from some of my best of AI friends. PPC, Professor Partha Chakraborty, and of course Professor Siddhartha Mukhopadhyay, who is your very good friend, and Professor Amit Patro is also another good friend. They're all people who are working in the interface of electrical and communication technology. PPC is directly a national and internationally renowned AI expert. I mean, I've seen him going through the AI age, the first generation AI, 80s, 90s, and what happened about 20 years back, and the third generation AI, which is happening right now. So this future of jobs, this aftershock, Kevin Toffler, this aftershock, I think the bulk is so huge, and right now the fear is so much because in the last 25, 30 years, most of India's intellect has actually catered as servitors to the information technology industry, not as scientists, not really as producers of electronic goods and other things, but just as programmers and feeders, business processors, at night time, and they're working with international companies. And that world is absolutely at stake right now. People are just losing jobs like anything. It's not happening now, it's happening for the last 5, 7 years. And with the advent of AI, It's huge, and especially even in my design area to which I belong, one of my students, my former student, she was in Bishwabharati. She's in Bishwabharati as a faculty. She was telling me because of AI, some of those older labs, design labs, and everything, they're just wiped out. The old paradigm is all gone. You said that, and what's happening? People are taking advantage of this flux, of this uncertainty, of this huge explosion of global uncertainty, and then competition as a second order uncertainty of that. And so people are just, even people who are working on Python about 5 7 years like they're getting outdated, and new programs are coming and replacing them. All our olden days of Oracle and Fortran, and then C, and then C++. I saw everything. They're all gone. They're almost gone, and they're all history. They're all history. But somehow the doctrines of thermodynamics, the Carnot's law, the Newton's third equation or the second equation, and the D'Alembert's principle or the Bernoulli's equation, they have remained as universal truths. So I hope, I'm sure that you're getting what I'm trying to do. So there's a conflict even at the level of science. So how do you look at this? How do you look at this?
Yeah, I think, there may not be a right answer. Nobody can predict the future. In fact, there was one thing I wanted to talk, but I did not have enough time within that 40 minutes is there are two people who you would say very close to this AI revolution, Elon Musk and NVIDIA chairman, Jensen Huang. And Elon Musk said in the next 10 years or so, working would be very optional and the government support, the pay and, other things. But Jensen Huang said, jobs will be affected for sure. And but new jobs will be created, right? So we cannot tell which side is true. Only the future will tell. But there is a saying, right? When we were studying, we were told that history is a good teacher, right? So if we go back to history, what history teaches, whenever a revolution type of things happen in a technology or in any area, obviously this type of situation was there. India, the Industrial Revolution came later because I remember in my childhood, we had blacksmith, goldsmith, and all that. Now they are all gone. But what I am trying to say is, even though all this anxiety and everything was there in each of these era, overall jobs did not get lost. Okay, so I am tempted to believe in that type of thinking, but only future can tell that, because this is somewhat completely different. As you said, the progress we are making is multiple times compared to any other progress made in the human history. So what it also involves is, for example, the job thing, my thought here, observing people around me, is that, in fact, yesterday I heard that Ford started recalling people they laid off because, they could not run the company properly. The knowledge is lost. So what I am thinking is, in the next probably 5-10 years time, all these companies, they have to define, how they are going to, operate in the AI era. Their process, their business, and everything, they had to redefine and, make it work properly. Whatever I am hearing, these old mass layoff and other thing, there is a saying people are telling that it may not be completely directly related with the AI. These companies might have other issues and they want to get rid of certain people. For example, in especially IT area and all, there could be a age bias. If you are at above 50 and all, there could be a high age bias. They may not tell it clearly, but there could be things like that. Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
yeah, I think in the next 5 10 years, I don't think this very huge, drastic type of impact will be there in the overall work. But when you look at companies like TCS, Cognizant, and all, their model need to be changed, because there used to be hourly workers programming Python or Java and all that. That and all will go down drastically. So that will impact them. And the second thing is, you also pointed out that in certain way, what we would see overall in the business will be hyper competition, because what used to be your competitive advantage, that the life time of that competitive advantage has reduced drastically. Something which would have taken 2 years to build a system and show others that you are much better than others, would probably take 5 to 6 months with less budget, right? So what it
Right.
means is, it is going to create a hyper competition. But I do not believe it will be like doom days are coming, that type of situation.
Okay, I think there's a hope in what you're saying, and I think with time, change accommodates for the change. Yeah, I think it
Right,
has
right,
always,
right.
yeah. So it has always happened with human history, and how much of history we actually know. I
Yeah.
mean, we hardly have a very clear idea about, about a little more than 1,000 years back. I mean, we don't know much clear. We are not very clear about European history. But before 1493, the fall of Granada, Europe, most of Europe was in dark age, and all of a sudden there was a renaissance. Yeah,
Mhm.
and that renaissance was actually imported from Asia by the Arabic trade and Indian mathematics, Persian culture entering Europe. Yeah, so that's point number one. And but there's a second thing. I really liked. I think it was the third or the fourth slide, where you had three beautiful instances or examples of one
Yeah.
from
Mhm.
biochemistry, the other from
Mhm.
cancer detection, and the other from climatic model. I think the examples were simply beautiful. I mean, it covered the physical world, the biological world, and the health world. Yeah, and everything intertwined. I think there's a lot of climate which is connected with cancer today, pulmonary and everything. There's a lot of cancer which is connected with the biochemical
Mhm.
world, both in terms of demand and supply, the way it comes and the way the drugs play a role, steroids, for example, the different kind of steroids. So, I mean, and there are also people who are changing gears to different food habits. I think different kinds of AIs, which are going to
Mhm.
come in the coming 3 years, 4 years. One of my friend, he's an expert abroad, and he was telling me that, Joy, you just wait. In another 3 years, there'll be a different AI altogether. I mean, it'll be it's absolutely a different generation, and that AI will be. And he was very optimistic, like you. And he said that AI will be more accommodative. It'll already handle the structural adjustments which the current form of AI is not able to do. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of connection between what he said and what you're saying. So my confidence is growing up. So, so in that slide, what I wanted to ask you, it's not a question, it's an observation. Uh, that slide is an imperative, it's an evidence that AI is actually a cognitive mirror of the human brain. All our understanding of nature and the problems of nature and the solutions towards that are from human intelligence and human sensitivity, human emotions. And I think both sides of the brain work together, the right side and the left side. Though we mostly work with the left side, but the right side is very powerful, very regenerative. As the thing. So I see a lot of hope there. That slide. Uh, if I don't get your presentation, I love to have that slide from you with your copyright. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and maybe you can send me just that one slide. Yeah, and I'll put your name and today's presentation, and I'll show it to a gathering who will come to Kolkata just in a few days. And I'll mention your name. Dr. Anupam is also there with me. So we're going to have breakout sessions. So with your permission, I'm going to show you a slide, and I'm going to have a discussion of that. And I'm going to recall some of the things that you said. And I think that slide is very optimistic. It shows that in the coming 4, 5, 6 years, and as more years pass, AI is going to be just not a cognitive mirror, but it's going to be a recognitive, like a two-way traffic. And I think with the biological interface which is happening in AI, the natural neural network, the bio neural network, which is still at a very rudimentary stage, but people are saying in another 3, 4, 5 years, robotics, which is just not robots, but it's everything is robotic. I mean, all the MEMS, all the machines, all the control systems, all the BIMs, the building information, everything will become like a lively, recognitive mirror of human consciousness. So I think if we take full advantage of that, I think it will grow into a new educational pedagogy in 10 years from now, or maybe 15 years from now. And that's going to be the educational pedagogy in the coming 30, 40 years, maybe, or maybe 20 years. Maybe after that, there's going to be another change. So all this very naive thing that I'm just saying on face, does this make sense to you? I mean, yeah,
I mean,
gibberish? Or it
certainly.
makes, yeah.
What is, I think we have lived, I think we are almost somewhat similar age group and all that. So we have
Yes, sure.
seen some of these major technological advancement happening during our time. And but when I go back and observe, what I have seen so far, there is something which is happening during this time, this last 4 or 5 years, that is somewhat different from what I have seen in my lifetime so far. Because you have internet, then you have outsourcing. These are all major shifts in the business area. But
Right.
what is currently happening is there are multiple innovations that is going to impact in a huge scale are happening at the same time. I can name a few of them. One is basically the space exploration.
Mhm.
SpaceX when it became $1 trillion company and all that. SpaceX, then autonomous vehicle. Think about the autonomous vehicle itself, you can consider as a productivity tools. Now,
Yeah.
companies would, expect you to, reach office at not at a certain time. So they expect you to work in the car also because it became autonomous. You can work in the car, right? Then AI, and there are other things, even medical area, gene editing, CRISPR technology. So
Yeah.
there are certain, I mean, normally what I have seen is some of these mass scale type of things happen every, 5, 10 years or something that will have a huge impact in the business and the people and all that. To name, internet, it went a certain time. But this time, it is somewhat, very drastic. All these different technology innovations are happening at the same time. So in the job front, when I look at
That's
that, in the slide I was telling, I probably did not tell it explicitly, but what is going to happen is these are new businesses coming, and what it means is that to require more people, different type of technological skills. When you have robots, you need people who can repair robots. But if you think very imaginatively, you can say that a robot will repair the other robots. Robot will run the factory. But one thing I want to tell that what robots or what this AI does not currently have, and I doubt it will ever have, is the human experience.
yeah.
The AI, what the AI we are seeing is it is all written data and videos and other things. But what I have, what Professor Joyson has, with over the many 50, 60 years of experience, That I don't think robot can replace, right? And it is our experience and interaction that is what makes us human, and that reflects in all the decisions we are making, right? It is hard for me to believe that AI will replace that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to extend what you just said, but I think there are faculties like, as you just said, which is human thinking, human feeling, and then human inspiration. I think the word inspiration came in so many times in your presentation and in the course of your talk, and then human imagination.
Yeah,
I think some of the great thinkers from Maslow to Aurobindo, Sri Aurobindo, to
yeah.
Albert Einstein, they have said that imagination is a far, far bigger virtue and a property of the human
Mhm.
intellect, than just knowledge and even systems of knowledge, data and everything. So, by the way, we are just trying to open up an imagination lab, and sir, we'll like to have you as one of, because you're a part of us, so it'll be very
Yeah, yeah,
easy.
definitely. I'll be,
So
just to
you
tell
should
you,
tell
I'll
us
be,
when is the next time you're coming to India, and we'll plan workshops accordingly, and we can take care of some of your things. Uh,
sure.
yeah. One last question, and before I ask this, is that I think others in the fraternity who are all here can raise signals and ask a question. I mean, I think this is a best time. Uh, as a student of planning, as a denominator, I'm essentially also a student of economics, econometrics, and I see economics more as a study of relationship, interdependence. Yeah, between this side of the demand with that side of the supply, with this side of the knowledge making to the other side of the knowledge giving. So
Mhm.
economics is a very powerful subject. It's absolutely and the other subject which is not so much taught in our school but should be is ecology. Ecology. We use the word ecosystem so often, but we don't talk about pure ecology that much. Yeah. So in economics, sir, there is a theory by Malthus, and it's called the Malthusian paradigm. It's very simple. So there are two growth curves. One is that of resource and how things are developing, and other is population. So Malthus predicted about more than 100 years back that at some point of time the population growth is going to overtake the resource growth of a certain place, and the gap between the two, it's like a bifurcation. It's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. So he gave a bit of a worry, a pessimistic view, and he said many regions, not all, some regions will become richer, but many regions in the world will fall trap. It will be a part of the poverty trap, and they won't be able to come out of it. I mean, I think it's partly true if you look at many of the African countries, because of many reasons which I'm not discussing here. Many African countries are just rolling on in the vicious cycle of poverty, leading to deprivation, leading to inequality out of HDI, education, health, and the economy, and then that's leading to a whole debt trap. It's coming back to poverty again, and if you do 3 4 times wheeling around, it's dangerous. And what happens, you fall as victims of richer countries in the world, and that's why people come and colonize you. That happened to India about 250 300 years back. Before that, India had one of the highest GDP, but we could not hold on to that. But we are not invaders. We are always good human beings. So not so good human beings, let's not use this word. Yeah, but they are good businessmen and merchants and others. They came to invade India, and India degraded. I mean, it came down. Though we called that India degraded in the Middle Age, but when the Europeans came to India degraded even more, especially the first 100 years. So if we transfer the Malthusian perspective to the AI perspectives, this population growth can be seen as different population propensities. I mean, the growth of people who are getting into AI more and more, which means very little people are getting into manufacturing sectors and making basic things, basic industries. So we can have different kinds of things. And if we are right with Malthus, and not agreeing to the other man, which is Simon Kuznets. He said it's going to go, it's going to come down again, as we are discussing with the last two questions. Malthush gives us a very straightforward, questionable history. He said good things may happen here and there, but many countries and regions will fall trap. I mean, maybe I'll escape because I have an IIT degree. You escape because you're in the US, you also have an IIT degree. But there are hundreds and thousands of people just outside IIT Kharagpur, just outside. You know what I mean, poor
Mhm.
people, wretched people, village people, they cannot escape. They're in that same poverty trap, years after years, decade after decade. And they don't know what is AI, but they know what is a cell phone. They don't know what is AI, but they know what is digital entertainment. They don't know what is AI, but they know what is fun with some videographies and everything. So that means AI and all the digital world is not misused, but it's just not properly reflected in the paucity of poor educational policy and distribution in our country in the last 70 years. Yeah. So IITs and MITs and Caltechs and NUS, we have all remained as islands and islands of peak research and everything. I think many people don't like this, but somehow it's true, partially, at least partially. How do you react to this just from the purview of AI?
I think I don't want to limit it to the purview of AI. This is
Yeah.
one topic. In fact, which is very close to me. In fact, everything happened in my life I consider as an accident. But one thing I want to talk to, people like me who got this highest, the opportunity to study some of the best institutes in India, not only India, in the world itself. We, in certain way, owe to the people of India, because when my children went to schools here, and the cost of a 4-year education is very high. Even in a typical American, it's himself, it is very hard to afford. But when we are in India, we did not recognize that in a very conscious way while we are taking advantage of this. Our education in India, in IIT and other institutions, people like me were able to afford that because some leaders decided to give priority and subsidize this education. And what it means is that the money government is getting and to subsidize this, the whole India need to afford that, to pay
Yeah,
that. How
yeah,
people are paying that. The common man, when
absolutely.
they go and buy a soap, he pay
Right.
the tax. And that tax is what is making us study this. So in that way, we all are indebted to the people of India, in one way or other. And we should have this thought all in our minds. And I think one thing, if at all I can recommend something is in the IITs and this higher institution, we should, teach students this importance of that. It is not that, just because we are very smart or intelligent that we were able to do that. It is because the 1 billion plus people of India are supporting that. And as a result of it, we had a certain level of indebtedness to the people. And second point, when I look back, my education and other thing is, our education system need to be modified in certain way, you
Right.
know not like how good you are calculating this, how intelligent, how academically good you are. At the very basic level, what we want to see is we want to see happy people, right? Happy people, people who can afford, who can live happily. Need not be very rich or anything like that, right? Ultimately, that is not the goal. The goal is to see that equitability is there. People are able to live somewhat happily, and our education system, as long as it focuses on this academic excellence, in my viewpoint, it fails certain number of people. What we should teach people is, one thing if you take about the health. right? In my opinion, in all schools. And we should start from the beginning itself, because that
Right.
is when you can create discipline in
Right.
students. For example, yoga, good health practice,
Yeah.
even leadership, how to negotiate, how to come into a conclusion, right? These are things you do day to day. These are the things which will make any people successful in their life. So, in my opinion, that need to be adjusted. And to talk about AI era, if government take lots of initiative to make it available to all the public, in the sense that, for example, government type of task, you go to a village office, you want this paper, that paper, what are your rights? Currently, not many people know, right? So if they can do that, that would be a positive thing. The other thing is, legal system. Now in the India, in order to get to the justice, you have to wait so many years. And if somebody has to wait so many years, it is, in my opinion, it is justice denied. Think about all the stress and other things somebody has to go through waiting for some conclusion, right?
Right.
So
Right. Right.
these areas, I would say, if government take deliberate attempts, can potentially help, all the people you mentioned in certain.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's so much of humanity, and in what you just said. I'll just pick up two things that you said, and then I'll ask others to raise a few questions. Is that I think look at our generation. The JE question paper that we had. There were descriptive questions on physics, and there are questions on mechanics and inertia. We had a question paper in English where we had expansion of an idea, science. I think from there we have just decomposed, or we have just contracted or reduced. I think reductionism is a huge problem today. To just MCQs, MCQs. It's almost like either you get it or you don't get it. So you get a huge bunch of people who can crack the examination at that point of time with a good presence of mind, with a sharp intelligence, and he or she gets it. Others, maybe they deserve IIT education, but just because they cannot crack, they don't get it. So we have reached such a level. We have reached such a level. And I think this is I see it as a huge problem. Maybe others don't. I mean, there are different ideas and opinion. And that gets reflected in our students also, because I see many of the students who are roaming around in the IIT system with a blankness on their face. I'll just tell you one story. Just a few months back, you remember F-134. It's named after a great scientist, and we are having a program with 150 UG students there. And then the speaker was just saying, "Oh, this auditorium belongs to one of the greatest scientists of India and the world, Satyen Bose, S.N. Bose. 3 Nobel Prizes has gone on his work with Einstein." And the students were just looking with a blank face. And and then he could feel something and say, "Okay, S.N. Bose, and then it was a father blank. And then he paused and said, "S.N. Bose, you know S.N. Bose?" And can you believe that in an auditorium of about 150 plus people, nobody knew who is S.N. Bose? That's IIT Kharagpur, Yeah. And that's, I think, also IIT Kanpur. That's, I think, also IIT Madras. Maybe you'll get one. I mean, that's not that if somebody answers in IIT Madras, that doesn't prove IIT Madras to be great. What matters is that out of 150, about 140 could not answer. That's really a shame. They could not answer a person in whose name there's a fundamental particle in the world. One is
Boston.
in boson, the other one is fermion, which is in Enrico Fermi. One follows the Pauli's exclusion principle, and the other does not follow that. So this is where we have come to in education. We have reduced such myopic, denominators that we have missed it. And you talked about yoga. I do a little work on Indian knowledge system, but my eye case is not the kind that's going in different parts. So I see, I try to look at parities and everything. And in 2017, there's been a Nobel Prize in circadian rhythm, the breathing organisms connected with the sun and the moon. And this is exactly what pranayama and yoga has been talking about since last 3,000, 4,000 years, if not more, because we don't know antique human
Yeah.
history. So, what is considered to be a pseudoscience or whatever, I was telling someone, is actually coming within the purview of a Nobel Prize in circadian rhythm. So, connections between the macrocosm, the sunlight and the moonlight, and the microcosm, which is us, as you said, sir, inspiration, human decisions, human experience, is proved by science. I mean, it's no more giving a some kind of a forced lecture, the age jo hai, wohi bhi hai, that kind of a thing. But I have seen in India mostly that people are not aware at all of these things. Yeah. And they're just getting into unnecessary polemics of this is from India and that is from the West and all. They're not interested in this real scientific connections of the knowledge systems of India and the knowledge systems of the West. I think both has something great to offer. And the universal science, which is an overlap of this thing. So uh, I think AI can play a huge role here. Huge role here. I look at AI. I mean, maybe that's the last thing I'll try to do with my AI friends. Maybe with your help and guidance. I think enough from my side. I'll just see if there's some questions from anyone in this fraternity. Yeah, I can see Ravi Sitapati. Yes, Ravi. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think it's a great presentation. It opens up a lot of questions, but I'm going to restrict myself to maybe two or three with the permission of the chair.
Sure,
The
sir.
first is, as a 1975 graduate of IIT Kharagpur, I've been all along in the energy, electricity business, settled in Canada for the last 40 years. But the key question that comes up in my own career, and I think you mentioned governance in AI solutions, is the intuitiveness. Maybe I was the last few batches that did slide rule. After that, it was calculators. So even in the training as the digital tools era came in the last 30 years, in our divisions that I have headed, the intuitiveness of where the answer should lie is degrading gradually. With the result that today, if I look at, I've been a professor in Canada for about 10 years, adjunct professor. I see even the young professors do not have the domain knowledge. They don't have that intuitiveness. In other words, they trust their tool as though it is the gospel. So now with AI, the question is, with all, I mean, we all live only a finite life. I mean, so 30, 40 years from now, as Mani Venkata of IEEE says, we'll all be dead. But the key question is, how do you see AI ever growing with that governance through domain knowledge and intuitiveness in your studies?
Great question. Yes, sir.
It is to me or Professor Joyson.
It's to you. All the questions are to you.
I think, sir, you answer. Today, you're the boss. Yeah.
So, if I understood clearly, Raviji, you can correct me. So, what you are telling is here, the people are using that human intuitiveness, to understand some of the basic things. Now, tools and other things are taking over probably some of these things, which generally in our generation we would have spent years in IIT and other schools, and that is now getting replaced by AI, right? And when we are looking at then where our knowledge ends up. Ultimately, what would happen is we will become more like people who doesn't study all those things. It is similar to like when calculator was here, right? In India, we were taught, to by hearting some of these things, the multiplication table and all that. Here, when I came here, my kids and all, they plug in the formula. That's what they are telling, you don't remember or anything. But in the AI era, I think, this is going to continue to progress. I think, I cannot say whether it is a good thing or bad thing. But when that type of things happen, probably your mind has to devote to something else. Probably what I talked here, some of the things I cannot replace. Empathy, moral judgment, and those type of things. But what in our lifetime we whatever we studied, the importance we have given to them, I think is going to slowly, go down. And but at the same time, there will be a certain percentage of the population who are all the time curious, curious. They want to see deep. But that number, if you take as a population, in my opinion, is going to decrease. And one example I can give, even what is happening right now is, when I was building a system and I tried to provide as much, things I can provide to any of my users, over a period of time, what I realized is, even though all the answers are I publish, people calling me and asking the same question. So what I found out is the attention or the time to read and all that is gone with all the social media, phones and other things. And in my opinion, it is going to accelerate. But at the same time, you will always find people who are always curious. Even AI come with this, all these things, there will be still people, why it is doing that way, why it is doing this way. Can't I make it, something different? That people will be there. But in my opinion, the number will not be as much as what we have seen in our generation.
So what you're saying is, with AI proliferation, large decision making that involves trillions of dollars in the industry will now not be governed by a human being because the domain knowledge is not there.
I am not completely telling that in this particular presentation, right? More and more, the numerical type of knowledge will be taken over by AI. But the current AI has its limitation. As I, mentioned in my speech, it might be able to answer a 9 out of 10 question perfectly, but there will be a 10th question, it will be completely wrong.
Correct.
I think I am thinking that Raviji and Joji and all, we all use AI a very, a large scale. And I have seen this, multiple times. So that is where the leadership question comes. We have to question. Right. And in order to question that, probably just this, knowledge alone may not help. Your field experience and other thing will help you to ask that question. If you do not have that field experience, sometimes you do not know what type of question you should ask. Okay, so I am not telling that it will completely replace our, what is a critical thinking and, those type of things. And the experience, certain level of experience you need in a particular field to ask the right type of questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was a very important point which was brought out by Raviji. And I think intuition is a very important thing here. I remember a story by a great civil engineer, Binoy Chatterjee, the Chatterjee International Center and in Kolkata and other places. So he had a degree from MIT and he went to a site. I'll make it very quick. And the soil engineers had some result of the site, the soil strength. And Binoy Chatterjee just landed there and he doubted. And he used to carry a few things in his pocket. So he had a small knife. So he just took it and shoot it up in the air. So the knife went up and came down like 2001 Space Odyssey and came and hit the ground. And he picked it up and he said, I think the bearing capacity of the soil should be like this. And he didn't say anything. And then the engineers and everybody there, you better check it because it's going to be such a huge project and so many columns, earthquake, so many, and many other things. And then they checked it with 2 labs, one in Kolkata and one in Delhi. And they're very close to the heuristics of Mr. Chatterjee. And they found that lab answer to be wrong. Yeah, like your 10th question, the answer to the 10th question. Yeah, so I think intuition, heuristics are very important areas which needs to be a part of our education system. I think we have Ashish Jha in the next row. to ask a question. Yes, Ashish G.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello, Ashish. Yeah.
Good to see you again. Fantastic presentation, Sir Padmanabhan. It
Thank
was
you.
very calmly presented, true to your philosophy,
Right.
and easy to understand also. So it was very good to hear you out. Because we talked about so many things, I will just add a couple of points quickly with your permission, and then I will ask you a question which I am thinking about based on your conversation, which has emerged in my mind. One thing is the what you talked about, the core human skills, which remains the becomes more and more the differentiator in this era, which is something that totally resonates with me also. That is really going to make a difference between a good leader and a not so good leader, right? One thing that I would like to add there is that the very basic and the most fundamental thing, eating well, sleeping well, and moving around. These three things are so important in current time because we talked about anxiety, we talked about the misgovernance of AI, right? So when a mind that is calm, such as, I mean, resonating with your philosophy, only that can govern this AI well. And also the startups, the leaders who are coming up with new technologies, new solutions, AI based, they really need to be in control of their own self. So this fundamentally eating well, sleeping well, moving around, that also builds intuition, by the way. I think that is very important. Secondly, quickly, I will say human in the loop is so important. Otherwise, things will go haywire. And Andrew Ng has also time and again emphasized upon that in his talks. The question that I really wanted to ask you, and it has come purely after listening to you carefully. In the olden days, the style of leadership that was once practiced was command and control or carrot and stick method of leadership, more or less. In current days, it is more inspirational leadership, where a leader needs to connect with people, needs to give the psychological safety to people, those, so that they can be at their best. Now that we are at this juncture where AI is changing the way we work at this space, is there a third style of leadership that you see is likely to emerge, is going to be more effective, which is beyond what we are practicing right now?
It is a good question, but I don't know whether I have answers, But in fact, just to see, basically, leadership is, if you want to be a leader, you need to have a followers, right? And in my early career, I asked one of the persons in my company, what do you have any advice for me? Then he said, if you are leading a team, there are three things, you need to do there are three things people do in order to get to things done, right? One is that they do things because you are, their boss, right? Because boss has lots of influence, how much salary or increment has to give, they will do that. Second thing is they will work for you because, you are a fun guy, it is easy going, that type of things. The third thing is they will do many things for you because you genuinely care about it, right? Then he said, the third one is the most important thing, which will generally work, right? So I think this human factor, previously there was this command and control and all that. In fact, if you, when I was reading the history of America and all that, the things here, there were not enough work in America at a certain point of time in the history. So these people used to come and work, even weekends, they don't have any particular time limit or anything. Even, small kids used to work in cotton factories and other things. So in the America, what we see here today is not the America, probably 100 years ago. The workers' conditions and everything was bad, mainly because it was hard to find the jobs, right? That is where I am thinking that command and control moved into more inspirational type of leadership. And in the modern world, in fact, I want to tell one more thing. We were lucky that, during all this time, there were leaders who understood the human sufferings and were able to enact laws. And that is the reason why currently we have the Saturday, Sunday, somewhat, even though some jobs, you have to work really hard and all that. But in general, somewhat, we have somewhat a decent life, Saturday, Sunday, or for, whatever it is. We have certain time to spend with the family and other things. So I think it is an employment type of situation that created this command and control. But if we have to go further, moving forward, I don't think that human touch is going to completely change. And if you want anybody to get something done, they should see that you are genuinely interested in their well-being, right? You can follow the other method also, you being a boss or, you're fun to do and all that. But what would always work is if the leader is genuinely interested in that person will, do anything beyond what you expect from him to do. And I think that will continue irrespective of whatever age we are.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think the session is going on very fine. That was a great observation and a very good question and an observational question extracted and a wonderful answer. It's like a family. The father is both strong and soft, but the mother is soft to begin with, but strong to end with. So you need that balance of the old paradigm and also the new paradigm at the same time.
Yes.
Otherwise, any system collapses. Any systems collapses.
Balance.
So yeah, balancing out. Yeah. So I think we can just afford one more question, and we have Vinayak Modi, if someone permits Vinayak. Yeah.
Hi
Hello.
everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for Padmanabh sir for the great presentation and his thoughts and great questions by Joyce sir. So my question is, and first of all, I want to congratulate Padmanabh sir because his thoughts completely resonates with the Chief Economic Advisor of India. I got the opportunity to attend his, listen to him in the Pan IIT summit that happened in Bangalore some time back. He exactly said that the domain expertise will enable you to ask the right question to the AI so that the path can be decided and can be governed where it is leading us to. And so my question is on this fact that the cost effectiveness of the AI, right? Because to scale to a greater computational power and to provide more solutions, the cost effectiveness of it comes into picture. And how does the human stand in this aspect? Because again, like a few almonds in the morning can give the nutrition to the human mind, but it is not so true with the AI.
So, if I understood your question, you're telling that, even to generate tokens and other thing to answer the question, it requires lots of computing power, and the computing power is costly. And are you asking the question, is it sustainable? Is that your question? Yeah, okay. So,
yeah, that's part. And also, I'd like to add that then the cost effectiveness of humans, does it also become a irreplaceable aspect of human intelligence?
yeah, so let me answer the first question. Currently, in fact, I read the news recently that Microsoft asked them not to use a cloud because the token cost has gone up. That's what I heard. I don't know how true it is. But if we generally look at how the industry works and other things, and historically all the computing power, where it stands and all, it has a tendency to, as time progresses, some innovation or something comes. And as a result of that, what happens is the overall cost reduces. In fact, the CPUs, all the chips making, right? Now they have a couple of nanometers. They designed all the chips. But recently, IBM came up with a sub-nanometer, way of making chips. And when this type of innovation comes, and the sub-nanometer nobody expected, but IBM recently, I think it is very 1 or 2 days ago, I read that. So this type of innovation comes that typically has an effect of reducing the cost and increasing the power of compute. Okay, that is one thing which will take care of that. The second thing is the cost of heat generation, cooling, and all that type of things. And that is where some of these entrepreneurs like Elon Musk and all that, they are trying to set these data centers in the space. Okay. So so what I am trying to say is, whenever we see these challenges, people will think it through, and they will ultimately come up with a solution that will reduce the cost. Okay, and more and more users are using this. The investment in this area also, in fact, right now itself it is unprecedented. Anything happened in the history of human beings. But this is continue to grow. New fields will come, and more money, more employment, in those areas also will come. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Your second question, could you repeat that, Vinay?
Sure. So basically, I was thinking in terms that because humans are cost effective, our intelligence is cost effective compared to artificial intelligence. So could that also be a irreplaceable aspect of the human intelligence?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I do not think everything what human beings can do can be replaced by AI. And, as I briefly mentioned in my presentation, the world, some of the world authorities, they are predicting that there will be more jobs created. And at the same time, some jobs will be affected, right? The affected and replaced, these are little different, right? So if we have, let's say, 100 people working on, probably, 100 people's jobs could be affected by AI, but that doesn't mean that 100 people will be replaced by AI, right? They will be more important. They will focus on some other areas where AI cannot, do the things and all that. That would happen. The other thing is, if you really look at in this projection, what I am thinking is, there are still countries, getting developed, including India also. There are many areas, India want to develop, right? And all those things will require additional human power. And if you look at, the Africa continent itself, that I want to say, I want to say that it is not as progressed as many other, other countries in other continents.
Yeah.
So these are areas where, slowly this development will happen, and that will add more and more jobs. But the question is similar to what I saw in my village, where, we used to go to a blacksmith or goldsmith. They are no more, right? But now they are replaced by somebody with the machines or machine operator or something, who make these type of things. So I think that trend will completely continue. I think sometimes when these things happen and when there are lots of unknown, people will try to look at the worst scenario sometimes. And I do not think if we have to follow history and other things, we should not be panicking that much. But one thing is for sure, we should all learn this new technology and understand its potentials and pitfalls, and find out, where our, ingenuity, our skills, and other things can be utilized in parallel to the advantages it provides.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, very good observation. I think about 150 years back, we had an apprehension that all the carts and all the rickshaws which are pulled by the human being, the jobs will be over, because with the coming in of the mechanical and the electromechanical forces and the technology. But I think today we have a million times more sources of communications, cars and trains and aircrafts, where the human being is not in the front of the machine but inside the machine in the role of a driver. And today the AI is also the co-pilot. So the human being is getting a relief, and the human being operates the co-pilot as much as he can. So I think there's a constant rolling, and something in which you say that at every point of time there's an inflection, but there's also a way to come out of that inflection. And there are new groups,
I agree.
and there are new groups who are the next gen and the next gen and the next gen. They're constantly, iterating and moving to greater heights. And this journey is endless. So that's why science is also endless. There's no last word in science. I mean, if I give a book to a scientist and he says, "Oh, there's nothing in that book. It's all backdated and superstitious," then he's not a scientist, because he has not read that book. He has not had a debate on the topic inside the book. If he's a good scientist, he'll sit down with the book, see this and that, and then he'll behave like a true scientist. So it's actually very hard to be a true scientist. So as a person of science is very neutral. So I think that is the role which AI is playing very well right now. It's playing the role of a true scientist, and it's making mistakes. It's doing a lot of good things. It's iterating. It's improving every 6 months. And that's what human beings have done for the last 10,000 years. We don't know what has happened to this planet before that. So I think it's a huge thing. I think Ashish has one more thing, but I think we have taken up a lot of time. We are close to 9:30. And I think a quick observation question, a very quick one. And then
Just
with that,
wanted to talk about this job loss, that panic that generally is in the market. Briefly, I will say, in 2002, when I was working with GE, used to work on those models, risk models, where whether an loan application should be accepted or rejected, the statistical model would give an input, the probability. Before these models came into being, purely human beings were accepting or rejecting. When the statistical models came, now they had a tool to decide, which helped them decide better. Now the same set of people probably were able to evaluate more and more applications because they had a tool. So people were not really replaced. Maybe more people were added because the volume of applications also kept increasing over time. So the silver lining is similar.
yeah, always, it's like that. Yeah. That's why more KPMGs and Deloittes and McKinseys were created all around the world. Such companies did not exist 40, 50 years back. So all those companies have employed, hundreds and thousands of people around the world. I mean, absolutely, they're new job sectors, new job sectors, something which people never knew about 50 years back. So as Sir said, so it's coming out. I mean, I think his talk today was so simple and fundamental at one point, but on the other point, it was also very imaginative and progressive, something which is hard for us to catch. Because we have to be at that imaginative plane to catch what he's trying to say,
Right.
and where he's trying to take us to. Because computation and prediction could be a very easy thing, but regeneration of past models into future models is it's not a very easy thing. I mean, for that, apart from data, you need knowledges of history, anthropology, and changes over time, econometrics, and many other things.
Right.
Yeah, I want to add what Ashish said, right? It could be one case. The way I really look at that is, in areas where there is lots of demand and the company is not properly staffed to handle all that thing. When AI comes, it help the company to handle all that volume in a quick basis, right? So that way, one of the major area in India I think about is this the legal system. Right now, as far as I know, there are hundreds of thousands of cases,
Yeah, yeah. There are
cases
more
in.
jobs in the legal sector right now. The
Right, and
hundred.
some of these could be, may not have any merit also, but it is still, since every citizen has a right to sue
Yeah,
somebody, it might be, landing there, right?
yeah.
But if AI can provide some of these legal thing on the hands of many of the people, first
Right.
of all, they can understand whether the case has any validity, or they can understand what is the rule of the land, and they can probably decide, and that can potentially, in my opinion, reduce the number of cases piling up, right? And in other cases, all the judges and others, if it is trustworthy, right? There is a question of that, right? I don't think it reached that stage yet. But the amount of time judges and the workers in the Supreme Court or anywhere taking to formulate a case and come up with a conclusion, that can be drastically reduced. And as a result of that, more and more cases will be addressed quickly, and the people will get the justice they deserve.
Yeah, yeah,
That itself is an important thing,
yeah,
right? Very, very important, right? So
yeah,
that is how I look at some of
yeah,
these
yeah.
things, as you said.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it's absolutely, I think we are missing out on that point. And sir, you added it: public policy, IP, legal actions, arbitrations. And I think even lines like CA, Chartered Accountancy, and others, they are drastically enlarging because of AI's impact. I heard from one or two of my CA friends. Thank you so much. I think so. With this, we have struck the clock, which is like 9:30 in the evening at India. And sir, at it, I think at your end, it's in the morning, later morning half. So I think I really thank the very learned gathering who have come here and listened to you. And this talk is recorded and shall be disseminated to a very large audience. It has happened. Even today, we are getting some feedbacks from talks that happened 6 months back, 9 months back. And we have a huge area, from earth sciences to computer sciences, from regional planning to climatic modeling, and of course with leadership. So thank you so much, sir, for your very kind presence. So yeah, so on behalf of Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and very specifically Partha Ghosh School of Leadership, which is a part of it, and Dr. Partha Ghosh himself is a distinguished alumnus, including his masters at Sloan School, and he worked with McKinsey for more than 2 decades. For some reason, he's not been able to join today, but he would have loved your talk very much. And but he's in Boston, and I'll link you to him so you can have a conversation with him. So with these words, thanking you, thanking the gathering here, and I'm thanking the fraternity who are in the backdrop. It's my pleasure to finally say, good day and good evening, and finally come to a close. The next talk will be next month. An announcement will be made, and that next talk will perhaps be a panel discussion on holistic well-being, a bit of yoga, and a bit of spiritual sciences and humanitarian sciences, bordering on the edges of leadership. Yeah, yeah. So hopefully,
Okay.
let's.
Thank you, Professor Joyce, and if you could pass my, convey my regards to Sumit Patra, Amit Patra, and
And
Suman
Siddhartha,
Chakravarti, that
and
would be
Siddhartha.
appreciated.
And yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know
Now,
they
what
still
I'll do,
remember.
if I remember, I think in a day or two, I'll make a mail and connect you to all of them. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I appreciate this discussion, and thank you everybody who
Yeah,
made the time to attend this.
yeah. At
Thank
the
you
end of
so
the
much.
at the end of the day, we had a lot of simplicity and clarity. It's so important. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah.